Guys, Enzo from Gonzo's and Pinball Collective, for those that don't know. Funny enough, people are starting to catch on Pinball Collective because they've seen me on the Twippies trophies and they're going, oh, you're Pinball Collective. I was the major sponsor of the Twippies. Work that one out. We have today Gerry from P3 Multimorphic. I'm sure a lot of guys know who Gerry is, but Gerry, welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
I hope it's not too early for you. It's nearly midnight here, but
No,
I think it's
it's
like 10, 9 a.m.
9 a.m. here. Yeah.
9 a.m. There you go. So I thought we'd get you on. So we got one of your machines here. Give everyone a bit of background. I had reached out to you guys because multiple reasons. We wanted to get something different across to Perth or Australia. Interested in the Princess Bride. My wife's a huge fan. And we, just something different. And a few people I've spoken to were very keen on Final Resistance, Princess Bride, and we'd reached out and had a conversation. And Gerry has sent a machine over for the Perth West Coast Pinball Festival, which is early March. So really appreciative. Fantastic crew. I have to give my hat off to you and your team. It's been effortless, very effortless. So thank you. And it's been a hell of an experience, which we'll touch on. But what I think we should do, because I've spoken to heaps of people about P3, and a lot of people know about you, but they probably don't know much of the history. They know Princess Bride because they had a pretty big cult following. Everyone knew Final Resistance because Scott Denise is just a genius. And his music is just so addictive. I listen to it in the car all the time. But yeah, run us through where it all began. Even for you, playing pinball, obviously, I'm assuming you played it as a kid.
I did not play it as a kid. I was introduced to pinball in college
Late
in my
bloomer.
local pool hall. I played a lot of pool, and friends were playing pinball and kind of
Nice.
pulled me over and made me play. Got addicted very quickly. In fact, before I left college, I bought a project machine. It was an old spring break machine. I bought
Nice.
it. I took it with me when I left college. I ripped out all the hardware and I designed my own interface logic to it so that I could connect it to a computer. Connect it to a computer and run new code on this machine. I actually never ran it with the original code because the original boards didn't work. But
Wow.
so basically, right out of college, I started tinkering with pinball. I bought a couple of machines pretty early, and then as you know, it kind of takes over your life.
It does. It's an obsession and addiction, and unfortunately, they're so big and bulky, right?
Yeah.
But I see what you guys have done here with that. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And like this idea of, obviously that was probably the initial, inception of this multi idea of yours, incorporating computers and bits and bobs for P3. Where were you when you said, I want to do this?
Well, so there's actually two steps there. One is in 2009. So I graduated college in 1997. So there were
Yeah.
about 10 years of me just tinkering and buying a couple machines, playing around. But in 2009, I designed a board, a circuit board. I'm an electrical engineer, by the way. That's what I
Yeah.
do. I design electronics and
I get
software and stuff like that. So I designed a board to control existing pinball machines, Williams machines, and Stern machines.
it.
Connect them to your computer, and write your own rules for them. The board was called the PROC board,
Mm.
Pinball Remote Operations Controller, PROC, and that kind of took on a life of its own. It gained a lot of acceptance in the community. It kind of kick-started the homebrew community entirely. Dutch Pinball, Eric Priepke from he built Cactus Canyon Continued. Scott Denisi got one and did Earthshaker Aftershock and then TNA with it. A lot of people bought the P-Rock or a variation of the P-Rock to start their custom pinball career. Keith Elwin bought a P-Rock, did
There you go.
Archer with it, showed off Archer to Stern. The rest of that is kind of history. A lot of people got this. Josh Kugler, Michael Ocean. I'm going to miss a ton of names, so I won't list them all. But a lot of the people that are high profile in the industry now got started with this P-Rock board. So the P-Rock was a big step forward for us. And then in 2012, a friend and I built the first version of a custom machine we wanted to build, and it was the first prototype of the P3. It had an LCD in the playfield. It could do ball tracking. It had a lot of neat features that we just did for fun because we thought we could, and we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
we took that prototype to the Texas Pinball Festival in 2012. Got a
Yeah.
lot of positive feedback, got a lot of questions. When 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 are you going to start selling it? Are you going to start selling it? What are your plans? What are you going to do? And we kicked off the company later that year and started iterating and hired an engineer full time to help us build a more solid version of it. Yeah, and it grew and grew and grew. And in 2017, we shipped our first production machine.
Wow. So, right, that's a pretty quick growth, right?
So 2012 to 2016, about 4.5 years of iteration.
Yeah.
Um, and it was the early prototypes. If you've seen pictures, I can share them with you later. The machine you're looking at, or we're looking at behind you, is very different from
Very
that
different.
original prototype, and it was a ton of work. We're talking about something as complex as an automobile, right? And
Yeah.
we built the first one from scratch, built the second and third one differently from scratch, and it's a big process for just a few people to do. Car companies have how many engineers? Thousands of
Oh, yeah.
engineers building the things.
Yeah.
We had me and a friend and one other guy building the thing.
And is the original crew still involved today?
Most of them. So our engineer that we brought on board to help us kind of bring it up to spec and get everything drawn, TJ is still here. You've actually spoken to TJ.
Yeah.
Um, and then Brandon and Jimmy and some other people who were involved early in the days are still here.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because the thing that appealed to me, obviously, I'd heard about you guys and I'd seen it, and it was one of the things that was always kind of in the back of my mind to like, oh, well, I'm sure someone will get one here, and a distributor will look and stuff, and we're so isolated here, and I thought, well, you know what, just got to make the jump ourselves, because the concept of being able to uh, change your games, and like for me there are multiple games I'd like to buy, but obviously space and money is an issue, and this concept of changing the games, taking them in and out within 10 minutes, and then if you want to, taking off the artwork, which is just a big magnet, and then putting on the magnetic pieces, which I've got some, just as simple as your slings, and within 10 minutes you've got, if you really want to change everything, it really, uh, when you experience it yourself, it's very different to just watching a video and like someone reviewing on YouTube and everything, because it is so easy, and it's kind of, it's very satisfying to do, because even though that back piece is every module is the same size, it's just different every time. And I know some of the uh, discussions have been, oh yeah, but the front where the screen is quite bare. In theory, it's really not, because obviously the ball tracking and the scoops, play a big part. When like how, I mean, that ball tracking must have been pretty complex to get your outer lanes and all your switches integrated and everything.
So if you actually go back, you can find some YouTube videos from me as a geeky engineer sitting on my kitchen table experimenting with some stuff. And before I designed the P-Rock, I designed the circuit that does the ball tracking
Yeah.
on the P3. And it's just me on a table with a piece of wood and some infrared optos, and I'm moving my finger around and you can see it tracking. That was the very basis of it. That was the first thing I did. I designed the P-Rock to implement the circuit that I did for the ball tracking, and then later built the machine on top of it. But to address your other point, I believe still today, I believe no other pinball machine is designed for the consumer. It's designed for the operator, for the location, for the um, let's not call pinball collectors consumers. Let's call them pinball collectors, because they're used to buying 10, 20, 30, 50 machines and putting them in a big house or a warehouse or something.
Mm.
The average consumer that has a small house or an apartment or something, and if they want a pinball experience, they have to choose. They have to choose between their favorite theme or
Yeah.
whatever game they remember, and that's all. That's all they can fit. So those machines aren't designed for them. Um,
Which
Video
is
game.
ironic. Ironic because the market 70% is residential.
It is now. It is
Yeah.
now. It
Now,
wasn't
yeah.
before. But just like what happened with video games, you used to buy a Donkey Kong and a Pac-Man stand-up arcade machine, and some people
Yeah.
still do because they're collectors, but the most people now buy single game consoles and can play a variety of games. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing for pinball. We're giving the consumer, and it's still great for locations because they can swap out the games easily and
Yeah.
they can present different opportunities for their players. But we're giving the consumer the opportunity to enjoy a whole variety of physical real ball, real flippers, physical pinball experiences with a single machine in a single spot in their room, and for much less money than buying 10 traditional machines.
And it's funny because I think one thing probably the public and especially traditional pinball players, they see a screen and they kind of automatically go virtual pinball.
Yeah.
And I think that's unfair because the flippers and the slings, even though they're not traditional, to be honest, within the first 5 minutes of playing my first ever P3, uh, it feels normal. Like it doesn't feel any different. It was actually easier to adapt it than it was to me adapting to X-Men's bottom, where the danger room is
Okay.
offset and it's kind of like you're trying to like, okay, well, if everything's off-centered. That actually took more adjusting for me than the feel of the flippers and the slings in this P3. And that was the only reservation I had getting into it, like as a buyer or as someone that was going to help you guys in Australia, was like, is this going to feel too different? And it doesn't at all. And to be honest, my dad had a go, and he was like, to be honest, at first, I mean, he's in his 60s. At first, he was like, how's this any different? Apart from the great big screen. So that's a great thing, and I think a lot of people, change is something that obviously scares people, and stuff that's different. But one of the things that I think um, really captivated me the most was how much I kind of felt like it was uh, kind of my ownership of like, what do I want to change? What do I want to do? Do I want to put this here? Do I want to play this game now? And then like I feel like I'm involved, right? And like even changing, I feel, even though I'm not tech savvy at all, and even to change rubbers, I normally get someone to come and help me with the complex parts that need changing. I felt like I was a techie, and it was a cool feeling. And I think that, I mean, there are so many points of difference here. Um, it is an extremely like deep diving into even how the screen is set, how changing the flipper rubbers with your little gate at the front, and pulling things out. Like there is so much innovation. My hat goes off to you because I don't think people realize um, how techy this really is.
Well, I think there's a reason why nobody else has attempted the modular systems to this degree, or the serviceability has been the same forever on traditional machines, and it's because to get this level of serviceability, to get this ability to swap games um, as easily as this, it requires a full re-engineering of the machine. You simply can't do these things with a
mm,
large single piece of wood or with flippers that are bolted to that piece. You simply can't do it. So
yeah,
we started from literally from scratch. We designed a cabinet without a back box first. We designed different legs because um, we thought we needed to do things differently. We've slowly reincorporated some traditional things to try to keep the changes to a minimum.
yeah,
Traditional legs, traditional shape of a back box, but that minimum isn't very small. We changed a whole lot of things because we had to. We had to float flippers above the screen. We had to make things easily swappable so you could change games, and that results
Mm.
in the serviceability that you mentioned. Yeah, I'd pull
And
out the flipper assembly the first time, and it's like, holy crap! I just literally pushed two buttons,
two tabs.
swiveled it down, took one connector out, and the whole flipper assembly comes out.
Yeah, two tabs in the whole thing, and that actually spun me out because at first you kind of see the perspex over the flippers, and you're like, "Oh my god, how am I going to take? How am I going to change these rubbers?" And then you realize it's literally it's 2 milliseconds, two tabs, boom, done,
Hmm.
and it pops out. And I mean, obviously, looking at it and looking underneath, uh, maintaining and service and reliability, it has to be. Well, I don't even know what value or percentage you want to put on it, but it obviously has to be better than a traditional pinball.
So serviceability is certainly easier than traditional machines.
Yeah,
We still have a physical pinball and a lot of mechanical parts. So you've got a ball bashing around and things
yep,
moving, and some things can break. But one of the things we're really proud of is that we stuck a ton of features in the base machine.
yep,
There's 6 scoops that move up and down, 6 walls that move up and down. The ball trough has 9 coils in it, so it can launch balls in different positions. The number of features the base machine has is more than complete machines from anybody else. And then you add in a game module, a game kit, and that adds the toys and the thematic elements and the shot paths and the targets and magnets and things. And that adds even more features. But on average, the challenges, the problems that crop up, the quality issues that customers see are fewer than traditional
yeah,
machines. Mind you, we did go through some struggles. It took us a while to make things solid. We engineered a new thing from scratch, so we iterated and put in some things early on that we shouldn't have or we should have changed out earlier. But
yep,
today, if you go read all the forums and feedbacks today, you'll see fewer issues for more features than you see with traditional games. Go read any thread on Pinside and you'll see people complaining about whatever new machine they just bought and they have to tweak this or change that or whatever.
yep.
And you see a little bit of that with the P3 too, but mostly people are talking about the games and the gameplay.
Actually, when I first opened the box and I saw this bag, and a lot of people don't know this because I was like, "Do you guys know how many balls this game comes with, or this cabinet comes with, not game?" And I'll touch on that as well. So when I saw the bag of like 15, was it, yeah, 15? I
Yep.
was like, "Are these like all to go in?" And then I read, obviously, your instruction manual is phenomenal, by the way. Really straightforward. It's kind of like the idiot's
Good.
guide to for someone like me who doesn't really like reading manuals. Very straightforward. Putting the 15 balls in was an experience because I'm going. It actually takes a while. Polish each one, boom, put it in, and then you hear it going down the. There's a pipe that goes to the back, and you hear them drop in, um, and so that really spun me out. And then also reading that the legs can all be set at the same level,
Yeah.
which is probably, to be honest, again for me, not I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm a big guy. I hate adjusting legs and playing with angles and move a machine and it's unlevel. Obviously, if the floor's not level, that's a different story. But the fact that these are all flat, which I'm sure it's probably not a new thing, but makes it so much easier for somebody who's not tech savvy or is on their own and um, basically just sets it's ready to go.
It's actually funny because we designed the cabinet to give you the incline for the gameplay that we want you to have, right? It's
Yeah,
designed, the playfield sits in the cabinet at 6.5 degrees if the feet are flat. But most people are so used to traditional machines that they
putting
get
up.
them, and the first thing they do is jack up the back legs. And then we get some support calls about my machine. I don't know, I can't get the ball up the ramp or whatever. We're like, check your
Well, I've
feet.
got I've got a confession to make. So when I opened
Okay.
the box and I took the legs out, obviously I hadn't opened the manual yet, and I had the back legs, and I used my 2 fingers and put the legs down, and then I'm reading the manual, and I was like, I didn't need to do that with the legs
Yeah.
because it's just you just do it because, like you said, it's just normal, right? Normal behavior.
And now you can adjust it either way, right? If your
Yeah,
floor is a problem, or if you want it to be slower, you can adjust either side. You have
yeah.
more adjustability with it.
Now, for people that don't know, so what was your first game officially that people could buy? That you guys were P3, you were a company, and you were taking your first orders.
Right. So when we first announced it, because it's a multi-game system, we announced it with 5 games. um, 2 full game kits, the playfields, Lexi Lightspeed, Escape from
That's right.
Earth,
Yep.
and Cosmic Kart Racing. And then 3 add-on games, which are software add-ons. It was Secret Agent Showdown for Lexi Lightspeed. We shipped it with Barnyard and Rocks, the asteroid-like mini game that people can play. That's what we announced. We let people pre-order the whole system with all 5 games. When we started shipping in 2017, instead of delaying longer to get everything working at the same time, we focused on Lexi Lightspeed first. So in 2017, we shipped the machine with just Lexi Lightspeed, and then we added the other pieces later for free for the people who had pre-ordered. But yeah, we started with Lexi Lightspeed 2017. I think Cosmic Kart Racing shipped in 2018. Some games have come out every year thereafter, or occasionally there was a 2-year gap. Heist took 2 years to develop. We launched it 2020.
Yeah.
Since then, we've been almost a game every year.
And it's interesting because obviously I made the mistake of saying the game where it's actually a cabinet and there's multiple games.
Yeah.
The launcher operating system is extremely user friendly and very straightforward, and very innovative. Obviously,
By launcher,
the
you mean the carousel of game
the
applications?
carousel, yeah. At the beginning, so I've got a bad habit of calling things launchers, but
Everything's
um,
a launcher in a pinball
I
machine.
know, right? And you can choose your games. The ones that you don't have are locked. But putting a game in, boom, it's unlocked. Like it's just so user friendly. But I think again, I'm heavily involved in chats and Patreon and Discords and all that type of stuff. And I think there's this, even though it is pinball and predominantly quite traditional, there is this idea where people go, oh, yeah, but how many games have they sold, or how many cabinets have they sold? Well, it's not really for my opinion on your sense, it's really irrelevant because you're not selling games. You're not selling like 1,000 LEs, or you're not selling 888 Evil Deads or whatever it is. You guys are, there's someone that bought your first cabinet 10 years ago, whatever it was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and they're buying modules, right? And I think that's the word that probably doesn't get used enough because I don't really see people going modules. I see people just say games because they're so used to that, right?
Yeah, people
Um,
compare us to traditional machines all the time in ways that don't make sense. And we've been
yeah,
trying to break down those walls, break down those perceptions. But um, the P3 isn't intended to be a machine that you buy once and then you enjoy whatever game you buy it with and then you move it out so you can bring in the next
another
game.
one.
It's a system that we don't want we don't want you to have to buy another one. Right? If you want to buy a second or third or fourth P3 cabinet because there are so many games and you want them all set up at the same time, that's certainly
Sure.
something you can do. But we don't want people with a P3 to have to sell it to make room for the next machine. We want to help everyone enjoy the machine they bought whenever they bought it for forever. So it's hard to compare our machine sale numbers to a traditional machine sale number because it's irrelevant. It doesn't make any sense. Um, every game we put out, we recently launched Princess Bride. Well, it was a year ago. Final Resistance before that. Weird Al before that. Every single person who had a P3 had the opportunity to add that to their lineup. And if only those people bought it, we would have sold 0 more machines. And people would say, "Oh my God, you sold 0 machines," but we sold a ton of games. So a
Yeah,
lot of people are enjoying it. It's a different model. It's a different ecosystem. It
it
all
is.
is very different, and people try to compare it, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, look, I do feel for you guys because I know the pinball community can be very passionate and very, traditional. And it is a space. And I was having this conversation with you before. I do a lot of audiophile high-end two-channel stuff, and audiophiles are far more passionate than pinball players and collectors, and real traditionalists. And in the hi-fi industry, a lot of new stuff that is on Tidal, which is a high-res streaming service, a bit like Spotify, but much more expensive. Um, and they do a lot of Atmos music now, and trying to get these two channel dudes into a demo room to listen to Atmos hi-fi is like pulling teeth. I actually literally had to force some people in there, and some of them are just not interested. Like you can't even open your mouth and start mentioning it. They go, not interested. But when you get them in there and they listen to it, their facial expression is always, that's actually not too bad, right? So I do feel for you guys, and I can totally relate to the pushback by the traditional community
Yeah.
as such. I'm a pinball fanatic. I get called a stern fanboy and a shill all the time. But for me, who is so passionate about pinball as such, and having multiple stern titles and Bally's and Spookies, I don't see why this can't stay in my collection, especially Final Resistance, which is one hell of a game, which I want to talk to you about a little bit in depth.
Yeah.
But your a lot of people love Weird Al's, like not a theme that I probably would ever think, do I want to try it? But from talking to people that have it, everyone's like, you got to play it. It's quirky and it's fun. Obviously, Heist. I've read a lot of good things about Heist. Which one of because I guess Heist, Big Al, Final, and Princess Bride are probably your four biggest themes.
Yes, no, definitely.
Licenses, sorry, I should say.
Heist, which came out in 2020, the day or the weekend that COVID shut down the Texas Pinball Festival, we launched Heist. Heist has been a long-term good seller for us. It was the first one that really intrigued the community in a way that generated volume of sales. We followed that up with our first licensed game, which was Weird Al. Licenses are weird, right? Because everyone says, so you have to have a license to sell a lot of games, and pinball people want licenses. But if you pick the wrong license, or if you do the right license poorly, then it's almost worse, because then you spend a lot of money for a license and you didn't implement it well, and people don't want to buy it. So there's risk. Every time you see people talk about, oh, companies should do license whatever, and they'll sell a ton of machines. It's easy to say that about any license, but until you put in you put in the money to get the license, you put in the time to design it, you struggle with, oh, if we do it this way, some people will like it and some people won't. And if we do it this other way, the different people will like it. Everything is a challenge. It's a fun challenge. We enjoy the design process, but there's no-brainer in pinball. You can take the best license ever and implement it very poorly and people won't like it. Or you can take a bad license and do a great game, and people will love it. Heist is a game that didn't resonate with anybody as a title, because no one heard of it before, but everyone loves it.
What was the idea behind Heist? Like, how did that come about?
So before we had enough money to discuss licenses, all we did every time we designed a game is our entire team would start brainstorming ideas. What we can do, a time travel game, or a people would come up with the craziest things. A clock shop. We had an idea where someone's managing a clock shop, and the time changes, and you go to that year in history and experience something. Outer space, alien battles. Final Resistance is an alien battle. That's a different story. All kinds of ideas, we would throw them out there, and we kind of TJ, actually, one of our mechanical engineers, he pitched the idea of a heist style game, kind of like the movie Ocean's 11. It's basically that, just without the theme attached to it. We asked Steven Silver, who was helping us produce videos about the P3. We asked him if he wanted to be the creative director, and he said, yep, he loves creating stories and creating content and developing characters and those kind of things. And it's an example of how a small company with no history and no connection can develop a really cool story, create a really cool game around that story, and deliver something really cool. Then we switched to Weird Al, of course. Weird Al is completely different, totally different. You swap those playfields in, and they're entirely different games.
And how was the Weird Al, like getting the license for that? What was that experience like?
That actually was pretty easy. The hard part was finding the right guy to talk to, and I did that work myself. I was emailing, I was searching the internet for Weird Al agents and managers, and how do I, and I went through like 3 layers of of misdirection, trying to find the right person. Eventually, somebody connected me directly with his manager, Jay Levy, and pitched him the idea, and he thought it was really cool. He talked to Al, and we made it happen pretty quickly.
That's
And
cool.
and dealing with those guys was great because they could tell how passionate we were. We had some people on our team who were absolute super fans of Weird Al.
Yeah,
So
right.
we threw everything we could into that game to introduce the player to his career, to his quirkiness, his song lyrics, everything about him. And he felt that when he looked at our stuff for reviewing. We sent him videos and implementation guides and all the things. And he really actually sent very little feedback back to us. He was like,
Oh,
you
cool.
guys nailed it. This is really fun.
And obviously, Final Resistance, Scott Denisi. Everyone, if you don't know who Scott Denisi is, he did TNA for Spooky, which was a homebrew. He does some awesome music mixing. And like, how did you guys get together? Like, what was the story behind that?
Oh, geez, that was so Scott Denisi was heavily involved in the P-Rock community early on. In
With
fact, okay,
homebrew,
okay, here's a fun story for you. Um,
right?
John Papaduke, the beloved John Papaduke,
Homebrew.
he was just starting to think about designing a game. This is before all the drama, before all the business things happened. He connected with me because he wanted a P-Rock, because the P-Rock was a way that anybody could build a machine. Um, so he had me and a software guy, Adam Preble, early P-Rock software guy. We flew out to John Papaduke's house. We were in his basement wiring up a whitewood playfield, working with a legend, John Papaduke, the guy everyone loves, the guy everyone used to love. Um,
Everyone
and
loves Pate.
the doorbell rang. John excuses himself. He goes up, and somebody was there delivering 2 refurbished playfields or something. Um, he I don't remember if we went upstairs or he brought him downstairs, but he introduces us to this guy named Scott Denisi, who was a local Chicago area resident who's involved in the pinball community, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We started talking. Like a month later, Scott bought a P-Rock. He did Earthshaker Aftershock, which was a custom version of Earthshaker. That was 2011, I think. So I met Scott in 2011. He was heavily involved in the community throughout the P-Rock community, doing custom code and talking with new developers and doing all that stuff. We became pretty good friends. Um, Went to his house a bunch of times and helped him with games or just enjoyed their company. And whenever I was in Chicago, I'd stop by his house. But he contacted me one day and he said, I really have what I think is a cool idea for a P3 game, and here's what I'm thinking. I'd love to do it. And that was after Weird Al was halfway through development. And we're like, yeah, this sounds really cool. Let's make it our next game, and we did.
And it's a license we don't need to buy, even better.
And it was straight out of Scott's imagination.
And I mean, it's an extremely captivating game. Princess Bride is phenomenal. We'll get there in a second. I'm a huge fan of like cyberpunk and
Okay.
these type of themed games. But this is like when the spaceship fires those 3 balls at you with the multi-ball and you don't expect it. Every time it does it, it's a pinball moment. And the community always talks about what game has a pinball moment. And if you guys have never played a P3, I'd highly recommend the pinball moment that Final Resistance gives you. And Princess Bride has it with the ball climbing up the cliff. And I haven't played Wheel House, so I can't comment on that. But it is a cool experience. And even with like the voice in the game and the special effects and the timer. And I'll put some at the end of this. I'll edit some gameplay in so people who haven't seen it can
Oh,
see it.
cool.
It's an extremely captivating game and addictive. Um, a lot of the times you'll get games, and I've dealt with a lot of new inbox games or games that you've just walked up to for the first time. This and X-Men are probably the 2 games in the last 5 years that I've pushed start probably like 100 times. It is extremely addictive. and I think that is the point, right? A game needs to keep drawing you back, because I didn't make it past, and TNA had that as well for me, where I didn't do all the reactors, I want to go back, or I didn't do all the, I only got up to the fourth battle, I want to go back.
Yep.
The music is captivating, the gameplay is captivating. I do like that you only have to use the bottom two flippers, not the top two, because I always forget about the top two. Even in I've got a Star Trek and I always forget about that top right flipper. I'm really bad like that. Scott Denise's, TNA was a huge hit and one of my favorite games, concreted to the floor. Final Resistance is just as good, if not better. But Princess Bride is complete curveball, right? Because we're talking about a really cult classic, pop culture movie that predominantly people go, it's a theme that maybe only women or families or kids would like. But everyone knows it. If you don't know it, obviously it had Andre the Giant in it, and it had a pretty compelling story, and very. My wife knows all the lines of the film. How did that idea come about to let's get Princess Bride, or did they approach you?
We approached them, and it kind of happened the same way Weird Al did. We were all in a room talking about the next theme, or a virtual room. We're all across the country, but
Yeah.
we're always brainstorming. There's a few of us who every day, even today, we're like, "What do you think about theme whatever?" And no one will buy that. That one's dumb. But that's a
Yeah.
good idea. Let's see if we can get it. We talked about things that aren't necessarily mainstream, so that we can kind of surprise the community. And of course, we talk about the big titles too. But every time we talk to the studios for the big titles, uh, clearly everyone's going after the same licenses, and
Yeah.
there's bidding wars, and there's challenges too. There's a lot of licenses that people say you have to get this, or I can't
Yeah.
believe such and such license hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
And there are reasons. There are reasons they haven't been done. The actors aren't available, or the footage isn't available, or it's going to cost way too much. Princess Bride, we just are every single one of us on the team is a big fan of the film. And it feels great for pinball. It's got scenes that you've stepped through in the movie that it makes sense to make this into a pinball theme. The battles, the fights, the progression through elements, the fire swamp. You're progressing through challenging moments in the film, and we translate that into challenging moments in the pinball. It just made sense. Um, we started working after getting Weird Al. We started working with a licensing agent, someone who could help us connect with studios and have the initial
Mhm.
conversations. And he reached out to them, and we had a conversation. He said we were not the first to talk to them, but they weren't interested in a traditional style pinball machine because they didn't feel like it could deliver the story in a way that the story deserved to be told. And we were the first ones that had a platform, had a system, the LCD and other things that we could do or use to immerse the player in the story of the game or in the story of the film.
Well, it's
And
funny.
they
It's funny
they were in.
you should say that, because one of the things about it is I have a tendency to skip past things because I'm like, oh, I just want to play. But with Princess Bride, the scenes come in to introduce the modes, obviously, and they're a little bit longer because obviously there's a story to be told, and like you never skip them. Well, I don't, because they're just so memorable, captivating, and there's and it looks great. I don't know if you've upscaled them or something, but the footage looks great, and it makes you want to actually, even though, let's say you literally just drained the third ball and you start again, you still watch the mode. Like I don't
That's
push
great.
skip, right? So
And
I can
to be clear,
understand.
you can skip if you want to.
You
That's built
can
into
use
the
the
code,
two
but
two red flippers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean, like any pinball machine, I guess you can skip. You don't have to watch stuff, or you don't have to
yeah.
wait for the stuff. But um, yeah, like I think it's even though you literally just played the game and you probably choose you just finished that mode. I'm like, I still want to watch Andre the Giant throw a massive rock at someone.
Awesome.
So and then the artwork on Princess Bride was like, even the way the back glass where it transforms from them to their characters. Um, uh, it's just it's really been done so well. And people that don't know the film might struggle a little bit to gel with it, like at first, but as soon as they start playing, it's just a fairy tale, right? So it could be a generic
It's an
theme.
adventure
It's an
story.
adventure. Yeah,
It's kind of funny because even we were talking to one of the actors throughout the process, and they were like, "Yeah, it's unfortunate that it was named The Princess Bride because people think it's a
yeah,
very a very unmasculine type of film, and it's not. It's all about this adventure through this
yeah,
land. Yes, there's a love story that is the overarching theme, but it's all
yeah.
about the interactions and the battles and the revenge and all the cool things that you eventually realize when you watch it or play it.
Play it. So yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie, obviously. But it was like when I saw you guys drop the trailer a year ago, straight away I was like, that topper looks cool. This works. The ball climbing up the mountain, which is a pinball moment for me. And I wasn't sure how the scoops were going to integrate because the scoops come across quite modern and quite kind of high tech. And at first, but it integrates really well. Did you guys have multiple versions of how you wanted to do this, or did you have like this is how we're going to do it, and you just ran with it straight away?
No, it's always a pro. We spend months. We probably spend 6 months with daily 4 hour long meetings talking through the possibilities. How can we implement these modes, whatever.
Yeah.
Steven Siller was the creative director on this game. Same person who helped design Heist. Colin McAlpine, tournament player,
Mm.
um, popular Austin guy. We brought him on board. He helped with the rules. So he actually came into each meeting like, here's what I'm envisioning for this mode. I think we should do the scoops in this way, and I think you should have to hit 36 increasingly difficult shots in order to get through the mode. And we'd be like, Colin, we're not all you. How about we scale that back to about 5 shots and then
Yeah.
figure out? And so it'd be a back and forth and iterating on the ideas. There are a lot of ideas that didn't make it right past the
Yeah.
design meetings. We want to use the scoops in this way. No, it doesn't make sense because the ball's going to be blocked from getting to the shot or whatever.
Yeah.
It's always a process. It's a super fun process because the ideas people come up with for this platform, the platform can enable so many different things that
Oh
that
yeah.
we're always talking about things that no one's done in pinball before.
It's funny because thinking about like I walked up to the game and I was like, I had an idea for a game. I was like, I reckon that would work so great for a P3 because the screen, is I can think of a lot of themes to be honest. But I guess that will probably bring me to the next question, which I'm sure people in the comments are going to go. You guys obviously know what your next game is already, and I'm sure it's nearly ready, more than likely. Considering you say normally it's like a year gap between all of them.
So we've released our last 3 games in the February-March timeframe.
Mm,
That's a goal that we set for ourselves each year. But there's a caveat, and that caveat is we won't launch it until it's ready. If it
of
if it
course.
takes longer, then it won't make it.
Yeah.
We're trying. We're trying. We're really excited about all of our games, but every game we do something new and different. And I start talking about it before release, and I'm like, man, I'm incredibly excited about something we're doing in this game that we've never done before, and it's amazing. And that's true this time as well.
And you
Um,
probably don't have to watch Princess Bride for another 156 times because I'm sure you guys have watched it that many times.
indeed,
Um,
indeed.
but yeah, look, and my hat goes off to your support team. I know we touched on that, but sending emails through your website, it's a very helpful website. Responses are very quick. That within 24 hours. Appreciate you guys might be busy and times it could be a bit longer, but the instructions and how they walk me through it, even though it's not a video, it felt like it was a video. It was like step by step process.
We have
Um,
videos too, so you
and you
you
have
can you
videos
can watch
too.
those
Yep,
as
I
well.
know. I know. I got told off for not watching videos. But like, it isn't different. And I guess now it obviously looks more today like a traditional pinball game than it ever did. And I don't think it's a bad thing because obviously it does. I think for me, I'm a bit OCD, and I'd like the fact that it sits into a lineup of games quite well. I do want a Final Resistance topper though, but yeah, like it's. My question where I was going with the new game? Are you? I'm assuming you probably can't answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. Is it a licensed or non-licensed? No comment.
I have actually said before that our next couple of games are licenses.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I mean, if you're going to invest in a company to help you, I guess it makes sense. But
We don't
um,
want to do all licenses because licenses have terms.
of course,
Um, they have time frames. You're only allowed to sell the game for some number of years because they don't want you to have it locked down. They want
lock
to
it
be able to
down. Yeah.
explore other opportunities. And
Yep.
so having an original, we can sell Final Resistance forever, right? 20 years from now, you want to buy a Final Resistance, we can make one and sell it to you.
Yep.
For Weird Al and the Princess Bride, we can't sell those forever. We can only sell them until the term expires. So there's
Yep.
value for us in creating custom content, unique ideas. There's value for the customers for us to create original themes. And of course, there's also value in licenses because a lot of people know what we're doing and they are intrigued by it and they want to buy it right away. So to touch on your other point though, I feel like every time I have a conversation with people, um, I feel like it's worth talking about this expectation that the P3 is the same as other machines because people will get it. You have one now. We see it behind you. You've experienced a lot of the differences. Um,
Yep.
a, a- People get these machines and they know how to maintain a Stern machine. They've had whatever the coil stop is broken every time they turn it on, or they've played machines from every other manufacturer, and they're all kind of made the same way. They have similar circuit boards, similar wiring, similar mechanical constructs. The P3 delivers the same experiences, but it's built a little bit differently, and that intimidates people. So if something goes wrong, they look at it and they're like, "Oh, things are together differently. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know. This is weird. Let me ask for help." So we
Yep.
put a focus on our customer support, and we make sure to have the information on our website. We want people to feel just as comfortable with the P3 that they do with all their other machines, because some of the perception of quality issue is derived from people just being unfamiliar with the system. It's harder for me to fix this because I don't know what to fix, or
Correct.
it's
Yep.
different. Therefore it's worse. I mean, it's not worse. It's just we have to help you understand what to tweak or what to change. And,
Yep.
and once you do that, people with the P3 generally have better experiences than even their traditional machines.
Mm.
So there's a bit of a hurdle there that we're working through, but we're getting there.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, I'm a huge ambassador for pinball, and obviously everything I've ever played is a traditional pinball up until now. And to me, Final Resistance and Princess Brides have really impressed me, and I'm looking forward to taking them to the show because I think people and a lot of the community over here is that 40 plus, and it's going to be really interesting to kind of get them involved. And having themes like this, or having someone with credibility like Scott Denisi doing themes, and I think they're just going to help reel people in even more to try something different. So I understand how that's important. The I guess probably the most common question that most people will probably ask is the flippers, right? That's probably the most common because it obviously looks the most different, right? I don't really get many questions about the slings because the slings are, they're obviously, yes, they get used, but you're not in control of them like you are in flippers to aim and shoot. How would you explain like the tech behind that and how it works? Because to be very frank, it doesn't feel very different, and they feel like they've got the same power. They probably it's hard to explain. Like they kind of feel like they've got weight behind them, and you've got more control, if that makes sense, in a way.
Okay, so
That's my experience, anyway.
the flippers on the P3 are different necessarily, right? we can't drill a hole through the LCD that they're flipping above. So instead of a traditional mech that you have your shaft going through the piece of wood, and below it you have a plunger connected to a coil, and the coil activates, pulls the plunger, and that rotates the shaft, and that flips the flipper. We have that exact same setup. It's literally the exact same. It's just above the playfield. There's a flipper bat connected to a shaft that rotates. The flipper bat itself is connected to the rod. The rod is connected to a coil. All of this is above the playfield. It's hidden underneath the apron
Yeah.
on the above the playfield. The coil activates, it pulls the plunger same way, it rotates across the shaft, and it flips the flip. It's all the exact same. It's
Yeah.
just visually different. It looks different because it doesn't go through that playfield.
So
Um,
that's my point. My point is that, like I was trying to explain to someone yesterday, I was like, it's not different. The only thing you're seeing is the arms, instead of going through the wood, this is above the wood, right? That's the only difference. Am I wrong?
yeah, no, you're right. It's upside
Yeah.
down. The flipper
Yeah.
bat is the closest to the playfield. The shaft goes up. It goes up away from the LCD, and then above it is where it's tied to the rod that goes into the coil. So
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing. It's just flipped upside down.
Do you find, and again, it might be because I've played so much of it, I kind of feel like I've got a bit more control though. Like it responds quicker.
Uh,
I
It's
mean, that's
probably a
subjective,
personal
right?
feeling. It's
But
not better,
yeah,
it's not worse. It's the
yeah,
same. We use traditional style buttons on the cabinet that push a blade, a leaf blade they're called, that's wired directly to our hardware, so our hardware can react
yeah,
instantly to the press of a button. It's all basically the same. The latency, how long it takes from when you press the button to when the flipper flips.
yeah,
um, since we use direct hardware control, we don't have software involved in that process.
yeah.
We do have logic, so it's not high voltage going through your buttons. It's low voltage going through the buttons. It tells the circuit, it tells the chip on the PROC board actually to instantly fire that coil. It's all very instantaneous. You shouldn't feel or sense any latency. Maybe that's your sense of better control because it's responding instantly to the press of
Well,
that
that's
button.
the word I was looking for was latency, because again, with the high end projectors we do, the latency is quite important, or the lack of latency, because we do a lot of, like, they'll buy a 100 grand projector because they do online gaming and they don't want any latency. Like it's
Right.
like the delays and the so the word I was looking for was that, and I couldn't find it. So thanks for that. But yes, I think that's probably what it is. You're right. So, but look, for me, it's been a phenomenal experience. I think everyone's going to really enjoy it. There's already we launched it today on social media, telling everyone it was going to be at the festival next in 2 weeks,
Cool.
and already heaps of people are going, can't wait to try Princess Bride and Final Resistance. So I'm really
You're
grateful for the opportunity.
you're going to be
And the what
swapping the games on the floor.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is essentially every we haven't finalized that, but I think what we'll do is maybe every half an hour, every hour, change the games, and show people how easy it is, and then change the graphics as well. And we'll have the ones that we're not using on the table next to it, and let people kind of have a look. And I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised at uh, how much you can customize. Because I'm assuming you can have just a standard front, right, on the coin door,
Yeah,
and
so
then just change the magnet.
we have an artwork package called System Core, which is a more of a
Yep,
generic package. If people
generic.
don't want
Yep.
to change their artwork every time they change the game, they usually put that System
Yep.
Core package on there.
Yep. Oh, and the one question I did have, I was like, I'm not going to forget to ask you this. The flippers obviously are protruding. The section sticks out a little bit. What's
Yep.
the reason behind that exactly?
So traditional buttons go through the cabinet wood, and if this is one side of the cabinet, you have a button out here, and it
Yep.
protrudes through this thing, and then it sits underneath the wooden playfield, which is up here. But we don't have a wooden playfield. We have
Correct.
aluminum sides.
Yeah.
So the button, as it goes through the cabinet, has no space because that aluminum is in the way.
Yeah.
So we took the side of the cabinet over here, and we extruded the button box so that the switch stack and all that sits inside that housing.
Yeah.
Pinball Life actually just they went and injection molded. Scott helped do this. Some smaller profile buttons that do fit entirely within the width of the cabinet wall.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's an aftermarket button box for the P3 now that is flush with the system.
So you're
People who
saying you remove this section. Can it be removed? No. You got to
the
do it
the button box is entirely modular, just
as
like
well.
everything else. So
Yeah,
there's three
cool.
screws inside. You take those screws out, the
Yep.
entire button box can pull out. If you want to swap in that one, which is flush mounted, you can do that. The original goal was let's have people. Let's give people the option to design games that use different controls. If they want
Controls.
to
Yeah.
put a directional pad on their cabinet, or they
Yep.
want more buttons, or they want to mount a steering wheel and drive this way, it can
Yep.
we were thinking of all kinds of different things. No one's really done that yet, but you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Right. Look, I did think it was because obviously you've got the width of the screen and everything, so I kind of got that right. But look, it's unique, but at the same time, it's very familiar, and it's very, uh, very. It's hard to explain. Like I get a real sense of like a comfort playing it because it doesn't feel, it doesn't feel any different. And I think the two titles really help that. My hat goes off to Scott Denisi. I'm a big fan, and I'll get you to hook me up with an interview with Scott if I can. And the Princess Bride, I think you guys have knocked that out of the park, and I agree with the guys that obviously are in charge of that license. I don't think you could do it justice because the video content is so important to getting that across. So, congratulations on both of those, and I'm really excited to know what the next one is. And I'm assuming, if it's traditionally February, March, we may see something at Texas Pinball Festival.
So
Oh,
one quick note on what you were just saying before we wrap it up. The screen in the P3, the
mm,
screen. A lot of people look at the screen and they're like, well, you said this earlier. The perception could be there's not a lot going on the playfield surface. The screen is the best, the most powerful, the most interesting innovation in the machine because of what it allows us to do in gameplay. It allows us to immerse you in the story of that theme. In Princess Bride, if it were implemented on any other machine, they'd play the clips on the back box.
yeah,
But you're playing, watching the ball in the playfield. You're playing down here, and you would hear the audio and stuff, but you're not feeling what's happening in the theme. You're not seeing it. You're not interacting with it. So the fact that we can put the clips on the screen while you're playing, you can see the character progress. You can hit a shot and they can change direction or something can
yeah,
happen. You feel like you're in the movie while you're
yeah.
playing it, and no one else can do that. And that's
No.
just one way we use the screen, and that's the bulk of the immersion that we're able to deliver in Princess Bride. It's
Well, I got a wow pinball moment playing Final Resistance, and it wasn't
okay.
even a traditional pinball moment because I was playing and I'm looking down the screen and I'm like, oh my god, I've got a rocket. There's a rocket moving on my flipper, and like this rocket's planted itself there, and I was going, and I got excited by that, even though it's digital, it's on the screen, right? So
So
it's
so
a
so so here's the thing about that.
pinball moment.
Traditional pinball machines, painted piece of wood, they blink lights to show you what to shoot.
Yeah,
And thematically, what does that mean? Why am I shooting this blinking red arrow? I don't know. It doesn't. Because the game told me to. Because there's a
yeah,
clip playing and it says shoot the red arrow. But we're able to draw the shapes or immerse you into the story of the mode. Yeah, you saw that rocket there, and you're like, what do I do with this rocket? Well, as you shot the ramp, the rocket moved up the screen and went towards the ship, and
yeah.
we can tell the story of the mode. We can give you story reasons to shoot every shot. I call it physical pinball that's enhanced by an LCD.
Enhanced. Or even when the ship shot that ray, which came from the top of the screen all the way to the bottom, and it lit up the screen, and I felt like I was being shot by this spaceship, and it was like again another wow pinball moment, but it's not a traditional wow pinball moment. So look, I think you guys have got a great product, and I'm sure it will grow and it'll get better and better. And I think people just have to be a little bit more open minded. I know some people said, oh, maybe you could have had a smaller screen and then you could use traditional flippers. But then what do you do with that space? Like now that I've experienced it, I go, I get it. But if it had a smaller screen and then that space, what artwork do you put on it? You can't put any artwork because
No, everyone wants to pull us back towards traditional, but no,
yeah,
no, 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 no. We're going,
like
we're
I
going
get it.
away. It's
I
different.
know.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good that it's different.
Yep.
Let's keep it different. Let's make it more different because because if people like traditional pinball, there's 10 different companies making games they can
Of
buy.
course, yeah.
And
And I always say, because I do a lot of discussions with other business owners and bit of consulting in hospitality, which was something that I used to do a lot more when I was younger. I tell everyone to be, you got to be different, right? Because why do people come to you? It's for an experience, and if you're just doing what everyone else is doing, it's just one of my favorite sayings was, if you greet people with an open hand, you automatically have the upper hand. And I think you guys have done that, and it's you need to experience it. And look, it's not going to be for everybody. I'm not, I'm sure I'll get called a shill for this video as well, but it is a genuine response, and I'm glad that I reached out and we get to experience it. And I'm really. I remember Shane was over the other night, and we put Final Resistance on, and I was just like, this is awesome. Like, this is like TNA 2.0 basically, which is what Scott was getting at as well. But look, I'm really grateful. I know you got a busy day ahead, and we've been talking for an hour exactly. So, was there anything else you wanted to cover though before we go, in case I haven't missed anything? And
no, you've done a great job. We've talked about a lot of cool things. I just wanted to
yep,
let people know that we added very recently to our website a web page to show the upcoming locations, upcoming events and streams and locations that have the P3. So we listed the show that you're taking this to, the Perth show,
cool.
which is just a
Yep.
couple weeks from now. But you
Awesome. So
can
people
hit the
can find where the games are located on arcades and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're just starting that. We're asking the locations to register their games with us so we
Cool.
can keep track of who's got one and make sure that it's running well and has the latest software and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Keeping track of all that. So, because people email us all the time, where can I find a P3? I've never seen one before. You're not coming
Yeah.
to the show in my local area, so how do I get to see one? So
Yeah.
we're increasing our visibility. We're trying to get the machine out to more people, and people like you who are helping get machines out to places that haven't seen them before is a huge help. So thank you very much for
Yeah.
your
No,
interest and for
my
helping.
pleasure. My pleasure. And look, I'm sure we'll get some comments in the comment section, and we'll respond to those, or we'll do a follow-up video. I'll show some gameplay after this, and we'll take it from there.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, subscribe, like, and head over to P3 social media, like their stuff as well, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you, Enzo. Take care. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Prepare to fight. 3, 2, 1. Combat. Enemy ships. Ready to lock and load. Hack fire. Combat orders begun.
Wasn't paying attention. So the good thing is that there you get like things that you can use. So at the moment I've got one hack and I've got a shield up. If I push the hack button, it basically uses the hack and then it gets rid of the shield if you've got a hack.
Prepare to fight.
Got one more ball lock because the. See if I can get that. Oh no.
3, 2, 1. Enemy ships approaching.
Yes. Nearly. Let's go. This is a cool pinball moment. Really cool pinball moment. Hectic. Oh, that one up.
Power lock. Ready for battle.
Alright, so time to start a new battle. Shields are up. I can take some shots. I might do this one. I'll do that one. No, I won't. Oh no. Anyway, that gives you the idea. It's great. It's addictive. Scott Denise is a genius. The game's got a lot of character, a lot of soul, and has plenty of pinball moments. So, Final Resistance.